Welcome to Math with Jonas. What I do here is just try and take math ideas that may be complicated and just break it down and make it easy for you to understand and be good at. In this particular video, we're going to look at adding and subtracting, but only from a perspective of using mental math. Say you're at the store and you're comparing some prices of things. You're not going to take out a piece of paper and your pen and write everything down and figure it out. So knowing how to do mental math is helpful there. It's also very helpful if you're in a class and your teacher is going at a certain pace. They're going to expect a certain pace of you to be able to do some mental math. So when they're on step 2 and 3 of their explanation, and you're still figuring out, like our first example, what is 43 plus 37, and you're stuck there, everything starts to fall apart. And it can get annoying, everyone knows you put the number up top, the one below, you add, you carry numbers over, but that's time consuming and not really necessary for a lot of problems that don't have, I call them obnoxious numbers. And put your calculators away, use your brain, you don't need it for some of this simple stuff. More complicated stuff, that's A-okay. Today we're going to look at addition, subtraction, and then some problems that combine both of them. Our very last example will include negative numbers. I didn't want to put too much of that in here though, because I don't know what level everybody's at watching this. Lastly, if you like what you're seeing here, click the like button. You can also ring the bell. And if you have any ideas for what you'd like to see in a future video, you can leave it in the comments. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. So we have our first example here, 43 plus 37. And again, we want to solve this using mental math. Okay, so what's the easiest way we can go about it? Well, all I can do in this video is give you my strategy. And when you get a little bit better with this, you're going to come up with your own strategy. And just remember, all these problems are very situational. What I do in one of them, I might not do in the next. So it's always situational. But here what I do, if we have 43 and 37, I notice that 3 and 7 are very nice. So 3s and 7s add up nicely to 10. So I might take this 43 and I'm going to add just the 7 to it. And I'll write out here plus 30, but that's just kind of hanging out. We're not thinking about that right now, but we can just add the 7 to this. 43 and 7 makes a nice 50. And now we need to add this, we didn't add the rest of the 37. We didn't add 30 of it yet. And now look how easy that problem is. 50 plus 30, well, that's a simple 80. And I see this one's important. I see a lot of students when they do a problem like this, they'll say, well, that's 70. 4 plus 3 is 7. 3 plus 7 ends in a 0. It's 70. But this is an easy way not to make that mistake and come up with 80. In our second example here, we've got 26 plus 19 plus 66. And again, with all these problems today, our goal is to use mental math in order to figure it out. So I'll take these first two numbers, 26 and 19. But 19 is one of those numbers that's really close to 20. So the easiest way to add 19 using mental math is you add 20, but because that's one more than 19, we'll take away the 1 afterwards. So that's the same thing as this right here. 26 plus 20, okay, 2 in a 10 spot, that makes 46. We still got to subtract that 1, so now we're at 45. And now we got to take this plus 66. We ignore plus 66 until now. So I'll bring it down here. And typically I like to add I'll add the 60 before I add the 6. But again, it's always very situational. So you should do whatever you think is best and what works for your brain. All I can do is show you what works with my brain. So we'll take 45. And we'll add 60 to it. And again, there's still that plus 6 hanging out here. We'll worry about it later. I know, I even go further with this. I know this is 40 and a 5. So when I go past 100, I usually break it up like this. So 40 and 60 makes 100, and 5 makes 105. And then don't forget we had this plus 6 hanging out here. So we just add 6 to 105, and that is 111. So just again, you're gonna have your strategies. I'm gonna have mine, and all I can do is show you what I would think in these situations. All right, our last example for just adding numbers, we have 374 plus 292. You can break apart both numbers, but I'm going to keep 374 as is. And first thing I'm going to add to it is just that 200. And then again, kind of off in the distance, at least if you're doing this in your head, is that 92. We'll get to that in a second. So we're going to add 200 to this, and we get 574. Now this 92, you know what? I'm going to add the 2. And we'll keep a plus 90 out here, hanging out. We'll worry about the 90 later. But let's just add the 2. That's pretty simple. We get 576. Now we still got to take care of this plus 90. And just like I did with the 19, making it 20 minus 1. Because those are much easier numbers to work with in your head than 19, for example. But here, what I like to do with 90 is add 100. Okay, that's 10 more than this, so then we'll have to subtract 10 afterwards to make that correction. So we take 576, we add 100, and that is 676. Now don't forget about this, we got to subtract that extra 10 we tacked on, and we get, hey, 666. Ooh. Hopefully that doesn't bring you any bad luck. All right. That'll do for the addition examples. So we'll take a look at a couple of subtraction examples. So what happens when you're subtracting? Is there a big difference in the process? Well, we'll find out. So here we've got 85 minus 48. So we'll take 85. I like to get rid of the bigger number first. Again, typically it always depends. But in this case, I'll get rid of the 40. And remember, there's still a minus 8. We're subtracting 48, so we'll start off with the minus 40, but then we still got to subtract 8 more after that. 85 minus 40, that's an easy 45. And we want to subtract 8. And what I do in my head, since we're going to go past 40 here and then into the 30s, and that gets annoying in my head, so I even break this 8 down. I subtract the 5, and again we're ignoring 3 more. 45 minus 5 is 40, and then we can subtract that 3 more, and that should get you 37. And by breaking it down, like I know it might seem like a lot, oh my, there's so much breaking down, but these are the, at least in this example, these are very quick breakdowns. Subtracting 5 and then 3 to subtract 8. These are things that you, especially if you practice this, these are things that are going to come to you very quickly. All right, now our example 2 here, 1,125 minus 367. Just to be clear, if you're a European viewer, I know in some places this comma is a decimal, but for now I'm using the American system of numbers. And so this is 1,125, and we're going to subtract 367 from it. Okay, let's dig in. So this one's interesting. We're going to cross a threshold, similar to when we were going just below 40 into the 30s. The big threshold here is we're going to go past 1,000, and then we're going to go into the hundreds. So what I like to do is we'll take this 1125, And we're going to subtract 1, 2, 5. And that's going to put us right at 1,000. But what's left over? So what's the difference between 3, 6, 7 and 1, 2, 5? Now this is a nice one because you'll notice all these numbers, 3, 6, and 7, are bigger than the numbers below it, 1, 2, and 5. So we don't have to worry about anything carrying over or anything like that. So we can just subtract left and right. 3 minus 1 is 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. 7 minus 5 is 2. Okay, so we can subtract these two and we're at 1,000. And now we want to subtract 242. So let's knock out that 200. Let's knock out 200. That puts us at 800. And there's still a 42 remaining. Let's now knock out the 40. 800 minus 40 is going to give us 700, and I should be able to come up with 60. And we don't want to ignore that 2. We do have to subtract the 2. And that leaves us with 758. And again, I'll just say it one more time. There is no one exact way to do this in your head. You might have your own ideas right now as you're watching this. And feel free to try them out and figure out what works for you. What is your brain like? What are you comfortable with? All right, we'll check out our last subtraction example, and then we'll look at some that have both addition and subtraction. And again, our very last one's going to deal with negative numbers, if that's where you're at, and those have their own threshold. In example 3 here, we've got 92 minus 23 minus 15. There's a few things you can do here, but right now I'll just go left to right. So 92 minus 23. So we've got 92. I'm going to subtract the 20. And that means we have a minus 3 hanging out here. And we also have this original minus 15 hanging out here. So we'll get back to that in a second. 92 minus 20 just gets us 72. And here what I like to do is I've got a minus 3 and I've got a minus 15. In other words, we've got minus 18. That's how much we're subtracting. If you subtract 3 and then you subtract 15, you're subtracting 18 really. That's what you're doing. And for this one, we can actually, let's subtract the 10. So we're at 62. And then we still have a minus 8 hanging out. And for minus 8, we can subtract 2 and then subtract 6. That gets us to 60. Easy number to work with in your head. And then we'll subtract the 6 from here. And that will get you to 54. And if something like 60 minus 6 is tough for you, you can subtract 5 and then subtract 1 after that to also get 54. Again, it all just depends on you. Okay, and now we're going to get to the examples that have addition and subtraction. We start off with 8 plus 54. Remember, if you're adding two numbers, you can add them in any order. So I'm actually going to think of 54 first. And what gets me to the nice, neat number of 60? Well, that would be plus 6. And then again, we want to add 8, so let's add an additional 2 after that. And then we still have this minus 22 hanging out. So we can start with these two. 54 plus 6 gets you a nice 60. Now we can add that 2 in. And we get a nice 62. Now we can subtract the 22. And again, notice that here 6 is bigger than 2, and 2 is the same as 2. So there's none of that carryover, borrowing, that kind of thing. So these ones, you can just subtract left to right, really. 6 minus 2 makes 4. 2 minus 2 makes 0. So we get 40 there. All right. Here we have 360. minus 180 plus 45. Let's start with these two here, and we'll let that plus 45 hang out for a minute. So let's take 100 away from the 360, and that gets us 260. But we still have to subtract 80 more. And again, we have a plus 45 hanging out here. I'm going to knock this down to 200. So that means that would be subtracting 60. And really we want to subtract 80, so there's still another minus 20 hanging out. And again, don't forget, we still have that plus 45 hanging out. So now we're at 260 minus 60, gets you a nice 200. And we have a minus 20. And then we still got a plus 45 hanging out off to the side. 200 minus 20 gets us 180. And in a funny turn of events, we're just going to reverse this back to 200 since now we're adding. So we want to add a 20. And again, we're taking from 45. So if we add 20, what's remaining? Well, there's still going to be a 25 after that. And 180 plus 20, 200. And if you add the other 25 after that, you get to 225. So again, I know like on paper it looks like, whoa, bang, 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 bang. Lots of steps. But again, when you get comfortable with this, all these steps are so quick to do in your head that it's really not going to be much at all. As long as you take the time to try it out and get more comfortable with it, the steps are really simple to do in your head. Okay, our last example for today, and this one is going to end up with a negative number as a result. So if you're working with negative numbers, this is great. And if you're not, maybe stick around and say, hey, maybe I can learn a thing or two about negative numbers before I actually learn about it in class. Okay, we have 14 plus 26, and then we're going to subtract 83. Again, in this video, I'm just going to work left to right, although you have options with that. But I'm going to work left to right. So 14 plus 26, like I said earlier with 3 and 7, 4 and 6 are really nice numbers to add. They add up to 10. So we can take this first part and say 14 plus 6, and then we'll have a plus 20 and a minus 83 hanging out on the side. 14 plus 6 makes 20. We can now include that plus 20 that was forgotten, and then we'll again have minus 83 just hanging out on the side there. 20 and 20 makes a nice 40. And now we have this minus 83. So we have a number, and we're subtracting a number that's bigger than that. So that means we're going to end up with a negative number as a result. So I've been talking about a threshold. So going from 1,000 to the hundreds, or say 95 plus 18, right? You're passing the 100 and then you're going into that new threshold. With negative numbers, 0 is that threshold, right? Everything bigger than 0 is positive. Everything smaller than 0 is negative. So 0 is that threshold. So what I do is I take our 40, and I'm going to subtract whatever number it is to get to 0. So in this case, that would be 40. And then off here to this side, well, what haven't I subtracted yet? If I've subtracted 40 out of 83, what's remaining? Well, that would be 43. 40 minus 40 makes 0. And then we still have this minus 43. When 0 minus anything is just going to be that number. And in this case, that would be negative 43. So that about wraps it up for adding and subtracting numbers via mental math. So how to calculate this stuff in your head without always having to write it down, and here's a number up top, here's a number below it, let me calculate, carry the numbers. That can get tiresome, it can get annoying. So doing in your head not only can help you do it quicker, but it'll help you in class when you have to do these calculations quickly to stay with your teacher. And again, if you like what you saw here, go ahead and click that like button. You can also subscribe. And if you have any ideas for what you want to see in a future video, you can go ahead and leave it in the comments below. Thank you for watching.